They did not just steal a house. They stole the place where my childhood still lived in the grooves of the stair rail and the sun stain on the kitchen tile. They took it with paper. Paper that said I agreed. Paper that said I showed up. Paper that said I moved a pen across a line. My name sat on a deed I never signed. By the time I understood the shape of the theft, a stranger had a legal key to my grandmother's front door and a truck in the driveway to haul out what was left. I grew up in that little yellow house on Redbud Street, Sycamore County, the kind of town where people measure time by Little League seasons and the height of corn. My grandmother, Ruth, bought the place with my grandfather after the war and kept it when he died, as if stubbornness could keep a roof from sagging. If you stood on the back stoop at dusk, you could hear the train, and you could hear the laughter from Mr. Patel's grocery when they stacked the milk crates. Summers were a long, elastic band. Fresh tomatoes, sprinkler arcs, the hollow knock of a screen door that never quite latched. By 36, I lived across town with my wife, Maya, and our beagle, who believes every delivery driver is a beloved uncle. Grandma stayed at Redbud even when her knees turned mean. She was practical in the way people are when they have outlived more than one storm. One day at a time, she would say. Do not spend tomorrow's money today. When she started forgetting small things, the oven, a name where she left the blue bowl we always used for pancake batter, she wrote everything in a spiral notebook, her cursive steady even when her hands were not. When her heart hiccuped and she needed a short stay at Mapleton Medical, a doctor asked if the family had paperwork in place. I did what the responsible grandson does. I stepped up. Grandma signed a power of attorney so I could handle bills and forms when she was too tired to squint at the fine print. She made me promise one simple thing. Do not let anyone fast talk you. Fast talk has slow regrets, she said, and touched my arm like she was blessing a tool. The first letter came in an early April that felt like a waiting room for May. Official window envelope. Barcode, the kind of font that wears a tie. It mentioned a reverse mortgage on the Redbud property. It said there was a delinquent balance. Reverse mortgage were two words that did not belong to our life. I called Maya into the kitchen and we shared a silence, the way married people do when the air tilts. Maybe it is a mistake, she said. I wanted that sentence to be heavy enough to keep everything in place. I called the number on the letter. After the recorded voice finished thanking me for being a valued customer, a rep came on and read our name out loud without any of its history. She said the loan originated in September, funds disbursed, routine. She said we were behind on taxes and insurance. I told her we had never taken such a loan. She said the closing was handled by an attorney and notarized. That word notarized did what it was built to do. It made a lie stand up straighter. I thanked her, hung up, and shook in polite small circles in my grandmother's kitchen. Maya put water on for tea. Hot water, in our house, is the beginning of a plan. Twist one came the next morning at the county recorder's office. Drawers of maps. Bound ledgers fat with other people's lives. The clerk typed our parcel number and said she had it. Warranty deed recorded September 23rd. Reverse mortgage recorded same day. She printed copies for me. They felt like holding a snake. The deed was formatted like deeds always are. Legal description, grantor, grantee, dates. On the last page was my grandmother's name and, beside it, mine. Evan Walters, attorney in fact. The signature looked like my name had learned to walk in a different body. The notary block said a woman named Nadia had witnessed me sign. A closing attorney named Rhonda had handled things. I had never met either of them. On that date, I was at work on a pallet jack in a warehouse that smells like cardboard and diesel. I spread the papers on Grandma's kitchen table because that table had earned the right to witness. Did anyone come in September? I asked. Anyone with a briefcase. Anyone who talked about insurance or a loan. A lady came with a man, she said. She told him to come back when I was there. She had written it in her spiral notebook. Insurance lady came. Return with Evan. That line sat there like a warning that arrived on time and was ignored by the world. I took the folder to the sheriff's office. The deputy listened like a person listening to a slow leak. He flipped through the copies and said words I will always hear in my ribs. It looks like a civil matter. He suggested I hire a lawyer. He said these things happen in families. I filed a report anyway. Even if it was not his crime to chase, I wanted the fact of it standing up on our side of the room. Maya said we needed a list. When a storm hits, people look for a big red button to push. Property theft does not come with one. Counties do not have a fraud flag you can slap on a title like tape. But there are steps. The recorder's office told me I could record an affidavit of forgery, a sworn statement that says in plain English that the signature is not mine. They also told me about a lee pendens, that is, Latin for lawsuit pending. It is a public note that a legal fight is attached to the property, so any buyer who checks the records knows they are walking into a storm. Boring, the clerk said, but necessary. Boring is what you want holding your house. We found a property attorney who talked like a person, not like a contract. She said, "A forged deed is void. In the eyes of the law, it never existed. The problem is that lies act like they are true until someone with a robe says stop." She said the reverse mortgage company would keep moving until a judge made them stop. She said we should file a quiet title action. That is a lawsuit that asks the court to clear the title and declare the bad papers worthless. She warned us that courts are slow, and slow is the enemy when a bank has gears that never sleep. Twist 2 arrived with blue tape. The foreclosure notice was on the front door like a bandage pretending to help. An auction was set in 60 days. I called the mortgage company again. I asked for supervisors and the supervisors of supervisors. I sent copies of our affidavit of forgery and the stamped lee pendens. I explained that selling a house during a legal dispute is like selling a car with the hood on fire. They thanked me for my feedback. They said they would review. Review is what companies say when they will wait you out. I called a handwriting expert. She asked for examples of my signature, passport, mortgage, checks to a plumber named Ray. She measured my E and my W like a cartographer. Her report was careful and plain. The questioned signature is not consistent with the known signatures of Evan Walters. That sentence sat like a brick in the middle of the road. We made copies. We sent them certified. We sent them again. Paperwork multiplied across our small apartment like mushrooms after rain. The auction came anyway. They always pick a weekday morning as if daring working people to miss their shift. I stood on the courthouse steps with my folder and the kind of optimism you feel when you have done everything right and suspect it will not be enough. A few men who smelled like new trucks and expensive coffee stared at their phones. The trustee read the legal description in a voice that had read it too many times. A man with a badge that said Birch Creek Holdings offered a number. No one outbid him. In minutes, our home had a news story that did not include us. I walked up to the man and told him what he bought. I handed him copies of our lawsuit and our affidavit and the lease pendens. He folded the papers like a napkin. He nodded without hearing. When people earn by moving fast, they do not stop to listen to slow truth. A week later, the messenger came. An eviction had been set. 30 days. He was polite, which almost made it worse. I watched Maya ask him how much time we had and thanked him for the information as if manners could change the facts. We tried for an emergency restraining order to pause the eviction while the court looked at the center of the lie. The judge's calendar had no room for us. The court had already stacked enough urgent things between that day and our hearing to make the word urgent feel like an insult. Moving day came with rain that sounded like a rehearsal. Strangers set our life on the lawn in boxes that sagged at the corners. Some were gentle, some were not. Maya held the last mug in the kitchen because putting it in a box felt like admitting defeat out loud. I put my finger in the nail hole above the door where Grandma used to hang plastic snowflakes. I wanted the house to recognize me and change its mind. Neighbors stopped by with casseroles and apologies. Mr. Patel pressed rolled bills into my hand like first aid. We told everyone we would be fine, because that sentence is something people need to hear, even when it is not true yet. We moved Grandma into our spare room. She slept under a quilt made from my grandfather's mowing shirts. That night she called me by my father's name. I did not correct her. You do not hand a woman her full fall while she is still midair. We woke up and made tea and started the kind of list that keeps you from drowning. Contact the bank again. Add more documents to the file, prepare for depositions, tell the story until the paper listens. Then came the offer. Birch Creek's attorney sent a letter with a number large enough to be a temptation and small enough to be an insult. Settle everything for $280,000. No admission of wrongdoing. A non-disclosure clause. A promise to leave them alone forever. I stared at the number and thought about the sun stain on the kitchen tile. I thought about Grandma asleep in our spare room, smaller than her outline used to be. If they were right, Maya said, they would not be offering. What do you want? "I want the house back," I told her. "I want the paper to tell the truth." "Then tell them no," she said. So I did. The buyer knew. They bought anyway. We refused their hush money. Depositions began. The closing attorney, Rhonda, said she remembered a young man signing in her conference room and believed it was me. She did not have a photo of my identification. She did not have an appointment book entry. The notary, Nadia, testified by phone first, then in person. Her stamp traveled in a small purse like a totem. She said she witnessed me sign at a satellite office on Doyle Road. We pulled my time card from the warehouse. It said I clocked in at 6:58 and clocked out at 5:14 that day. The satellite office is 30 minutes away. Maybe it was a different day, she said. Her notary log had gaps on dates that mattered. Gaps are the sound notaries make when they do not expect anyone to look. Our handwriting expert put my signatures on a screen bigger than a window and traced where my letters curve and where the forgery stands straight and wrong. The defense asked if people sometimes sign differently. The expert said yes, but not when they do not sign at all. The bank sent a corporate representative who looked apologetic and said nothing. He said they relied on professionals and followed protocols. He said the reverse mortgage was a service to seniors. He said they regretted any inconvenience. In our living room, the inconvenience had looked like rain on furniture. The detective who took my first report came to court in a tie that fought with his shirt and told the truth he was allowed to tell. He had referred the case to the county attorney. They declined to bring charges at that time. He looked at me in a way that made me believe he hated that sentence as much as I did. Later, he told me quietly that he had referred the notary to the state licensing board. Months later, a letter arrived. The state had suspended her commission pending investigation. It did not put our couch back inside when it rained, but it was one honest door closing. We asked the judge to stop Birch Creek from using our house while the case crawled. The court denied a preliminary injunction. Money can make you whole later, the judge said. Money can fix gutters. Money can buy paint. Money cannot give you back a sun stain that faded while you were gone. We pressed on. We subpoenaed phone records. We looked for the receptionist who remembered someone saying her nephew would sign later. We found dead ends and kept walking anyway. Along the way, I learned things I never wanted to learn. A reverse mortgage is a loan that gives you money now and pays itself back when you leave the house, but you still have to pay taxes and insurance. A deed is the paper that says who owns a thing, but a recording office does not test truth. It records what it is given. A lee pendens is a flag in the public file that says a fight is happening. Quiet title is how you ask a court to clear away bad paper so good paper can stand up. A bona fide purchaser is a buyer who did not know about the mess and may be protected. But that protection fails when notice is in the file. Notice can be as simple as a stamped page in a drawer anybody can read. Plain English matters because small words make big things understandable. Other people found us. Strangers wrote and said their uncles had signed their mother's name on a refinance. A cousin recorded a midnight deed. A notary notarized through a car window for cash. A woman wrote, "The paper said I was there. I was in the hospital." She attached a photo of a hospital bracelet, as if I would not believe her otherwise. Our lawyer asked us to start a fundraiser to keep the fight going. Pride is heavy and unhelpful. Maya said, "Let people stand next to us." They sent $5 and stories. The money mattered. The stories mattered more. On a Tuesday that had already lived a week, a young lawyer from the county attorney's office asked to meet. He looked tired in a way that means he chose his work and keeps choosing it. They had reopened the criminal review, he said. They might pursue charges against the notary and whoever filed the documents. No promises. It would not make us whole. It would try to make the paper honest. I could live with that kind of goal. The last hearing was not dramatic. It was bookkeeping in public. Exhibits, brief answers, fluorescent lights that make justice look like a long hallway. Our lawyer used our words. Fraud, void from the beginning. She translated the Latin into English every time she saw my face. She pointed to our timeline. Lease pendants recorded before the auction. Buyer took anyway. Settlement offers that prove knowledge even when emails played dumb. She asked for one thing that fixes many things. Declare the forged deed void. Declare the reverse mortgage void. set aside the foreclosure sale, and put title where it was before the lie. Birch Creek's attorney said good faith purchaser so many times it sounded like a nursery rhyme. The judge asked one question that slid under their argument like a rug. When your client received the lease pendants, why did they proceed? He talked for 2 minutes and did not answer. The judge looked at us for a beat that felt like kindness. 2 weeks later, the order came. I read it standing up in our kitchen because sitting felt presumptuous. The court finds the warranty deed recorded on September 23rd was forged and therefore void. The reverse mortgage recorded the same day did not lawfully encumber the property. The foreclosure sale is set aside. Title is quieted in favor of the Walters family. That is how the law says, give them their home back. I took the paper to Grandma's chair. I told her we could go home. She smiled the small smile you get when relief meets old age. Maya put the kettle on. There are moments tea was invented for. We called our lawyer and cried in a way that felt like the wall might move. Birch Creek appealed. Of course they did. The appellate court affirmed. The word looks small and holds a roof. The notary's license was revoked. The state fined her. I will repeat only what is printed. Rumors do not help. We kept our eyes on the page that mattered, the one with our name next to the house. Moving back was not a movie. There were broken things, a lock we did not recognize. We changed it. Windows stuck. We eased them. The sun stain on the kitchen tile had faded and came back slowly, like a worker who had been laid off and wanted to prove something. The stair rail remembered my hand. We made 2 lists. What needs fixing? What needs keeping? The silly cow cookie jar. The jar of screws nobody uses and everybody needs. The plastic snowflakes. The list of what needed fixing was all tasks. The list of what needed keeping was all reasons. We did one more practical thing. We enrolled in the county property alert system. If our address appears on a new document, we get an email. We bought a fireproof safe and put the deed inside, plus copies of Grandma's will, my power of attorney, and the court order. We made a small list taped inside the front door. If someone comes to the door with papers, call Evan. We added 2 neighbor numbers to the list because safety sometimes looks like a chorus. The last time we went to court, it was for fees. The judge ordered the bank to pay our lawyer and the expert and some of what we lost. Courts do not order apologies. They order checks. A check can pay to fix gutters. A check cannot say I was wrong with enough weight to satisfy a person. We took it to the bank and then bought basil starts because Maya believes in edible hope. We said yes to porch visits again. Mr. Patel brought samosas by accident. He asked to see the stamp, the round seal with our name. He touched it like a saint's medallion. Forgiveness came in strange shapes. I do not forgive the system that told us to be patient while rain soaked our couch. I do not forgive the notary who witnessed me from a day I did not live. I do not forgive a buyer who pretended not to see a recorded warning. But I have forgiven the small daily bitterness that made me brittle. I want to be made of something more flexible than anger. Some days I bend, some days I snap. That is not the court's business. That is mine. There were smaller twists after the big one. The tax office had applied escrow money wrong. We fixed it with 3 phone calls and an email that used the phrase, "Please see," attached more times than manners require. A mailer offered to buy our house for cash and a smile, even after the order. We sent it back with a copy of the order and a 1-line note that said, "Remove us." A phishing email pretended to be the court with a link to view our hearing. We called the clerk to report it and deleted the message. Fraud does not retire. It changes outfits. We kept our habits. Save everything. Photograph everything. Send certified mail. When in doubt, ask the clerk what to do and where to sign so it matters. People ask what I learned. Here is my short list in words that fit in a mouth, not a law library. First, a notary stamp confirms a person with identification signed. It does not prove clear judgment. It does not prove the right person should have been signing at all. A stamp is a doorbell, not a security system. Second, a deed can be recorded even if it is a lie. The recorder's office does not test truth. It records what it is given. Truth starts when someone challenges what is in the drawer. A challenge is a form and a fee and a person who will not let the form be ignored. Third, a lease pendens is a warning flag in a public file. A buyer who closes after that flag cannot plead innocence. Good faith is not ignorance on purpose. Fourth, quiet title is how you clear mud from water. It is slow. It is worth it. You are asking the court to speak in a voice that cannot be argued with. Fifth, Eviction is a machine. It does not care how tired you are. If you can, try to pause it while the court decides the paper. If you cannot, pack with dignity and keep your folder close. Dignity is not surrender. It is how you carry your weight to the next room. 6. Keep originals in a safe that does not have a household nickname. Keep copies off-site. Outsiders cannot borrow what they cannot find. Do not leave titles, deeds, or registration papers in a drawer that everyone calls the important drawer. 7th, do not talk to banks and buyers on the phone only. Put it in writing. Send it certified. When someone tells you we will review, ask for a name and a time and a number. Write it down. Put it in the folder. 8th, tell someone your story early. A neighbor who knows where you keep a spare key can be the reason a house knows your name again. 9th, forgive yourself for being new to this. You do not fail because you did not know a Latin word on a Tuesday. You win because you kept going on a Wednesday. On Sundays, we drive slowly down Redbud and Maple. The Beagle's head out the window like he owns the wind. We pass the park where kids hit balls into the sky and run with their heads up like Faith. We pull into our driveway and sit for a minute because sometimes arriving is so good you want to do it twice. We unlock a door that has learned our name again. The house is itself again, not a stack of documents. And when the sun hits the tile just right, the stain looks like it never left. Like it was waiting for us to stand in the kitchen and breathe. If you are dealing with your own version of our story, I am going to say this as plainly as I can. You are not dramatic, you are not small, you are not alone. Start where the light is. Record a property alert if your county offers one. Put your deed, will, and power of attorney in a fireproof safe that only you can open, and keep copies off-site. Never sign blank forms or let anyone tell you they will fill it in later. Bring a third person to any signing. Photograph identification. Put every promise in email. When a clerk tells you where to write your name, do it exactly there. When someone says it is just a civil matter, keep going until someone hands you a stamp that says the truth out loud. The day the clerk stamped our order, she did not raise her voice. It was the loudest sound I have ever heard. They did not just try to steal a house, they tried to steal a story. We took it back in the only way you can, slowly, with witnesses, with ugly paper and patient truth, with enough love to keep carrying boxes when it rained. They forged the deed. The buyer bought anyway. The court put our home back where it belonged. And if you want a first step that fits in your hand, buy a safe for your papers and call your county recorder. Ask how to record an affidavit of forgery. Ask how to record a lias pendens. Write down the answers, then start moving.
Protect yourself. Tip: keep all originals, especially deeds, titles, wills, and powers of attorney, in a fireproof safe that only you can access, and keep scanned copies off-site. If a document shows up that you did not sign, record an affidavit of forgery and a lease pendens right away, file a police report, and hire a property attorney to ask the court for quiet title. Enroll in your county's property fraud alert. Never sign blank forms or allow someone to say they will fill them in later. Put every promise in writing and send important notices by certified mail. Paper should protect your family, not erase it. Stay safe.